Welcome to the Disrupting Obesity podcast. I'm Charlotte Skanes, and I'll be sharing ways to regain control over your body and lose an extreme amount of weight naturally. Being fat is about so much more than just the food. It's about your relationship with food. That means that dealing with your weight is about more than just the food, too. You have to change that relationship. You have to start disrupting obesity. I don't usually talk specifically about food. I don't think it's helpful. My whole jam is you can lose weight eating anything you want so long as you're in a calorie deficit. Now, if I'm feeling bored and I want to get the Gladyses going, all I have to do is say a couple of magical words: bacon and bubblegum. And yeah, you guys can all have t-shirts just as soon as we get my YouTube channel monetized. But if I want to get a whole whack of really angry messages and emails, all I have to do is say, you can lose weight eating nothing but bacon and bubblegum so long as you're in a deficit. You can get mad, Glads, but you can't argue with the facts here. I'm not making this up. I mean, obviously, I'm being deliberately provocative, right? But I was trying to get my flamingos' attention, not Gladys's. I started saying the bacon and bubblegum thing because it's so jolting that I knew it could help change perspectives. That was what I was trying to do. Help you to see things differently, not royally piss off a whole big group of people. And I really think part of what makes them so mad is that they can't argue with me on this one. It's just math. And I always follow it up by saying that just eating bacon and bubblegum isn't a good idea. The whole point is to get you to realize that you can lose weight by eating the things that you love, by eating the foods that you want to eat. I think it's kind of critical that you do. One of the other things that I talk about probably as often as bacon and bubblegum is the way that it's not about the food. It's about your relationship with food. That's actually what I'm talking about almost all of the time when I'm talking about weight loss. So I don't really give specific food advice. I think it's counterproductive. It's also why I don't do meal plans. This is a give a man a fish, teach a man to fish situation. If I tell you what to eat so that you can lose weight, what's going to happen when I stop telling you what to eat? Well, we know what happens. We don't have to look very much further than the 85% recidivism rate. I'd rather hand out fishing poles. Whenever you do a diet plan or a meal replacement plan or any plan where you're not the one deciding what you eat, unless you plan on having someone tell you what to eat for the rest of your life, or you're planning on drinking those shakes or having those meals delivered or whatever it is that you're doing, unless you plan on doing that for the rest of your life, you're setting yourself up to fail. You're probably going to gain the weight back. I'm sorry, but most people do it in the first 5 years. So I don't do meal plans ever. Also, and I kind of feel like this one's a biggie, you guys are listening from 111 different countries. We're all eating different foods. We all have access to different foods. There is no way that I can give universally helpful advice if all I do is give out weight loss recipes and meal plans. It's not helpful. But I have learned that it can be helpful when I share examples from my experience, like just the way I was able to lose weight while eating whatever I wanted. So you know about my whole spread, sprinkle, pour thing. That's the low-hanging fruit. It's the best way in. It's the best way to get started, and I think it's the best way to keep yourself going too. Because it's a series of small incremental changes, it's not only sustainable, it's motivating too. Today, though, I'm going to get specific. I'll talk about the changes I made to lose the weight and the things I do now to make sure I keep it off, or when I'm just trying to move some calories around to make sure that I have room for something super indulgent that I want to have. There are things I won't compromise, things I won't cut out or switch to a lower calorie version of them. The juice has to be worth the squeeze. Mayonnaise is the perfect example. The first time I lost weight, I decided that I would rather use less regular mayo than switch to the low-fat version and save more than half the calories. It was a conscious choice. And you have to understand that I used not normal amounts of mayo. It was excessive. I could have made my life a whole lot easier by making that one little change, but the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for me. I really liked mayonnaise. I still do, but I don't put 4 tablespoons of it on a sandwich anymore. I had some weird rules when I lost the weight the first time, and I was wrong about a few things. I grew up during the low fat craze. Yeah. Low fat versions of foods were just popping up all the time, all over the place. And in those early days with these products, most of them tasted like shit. There was lots of glorified cardboard going on. I was already angry, and the low fat thing made me even more angry. I was completely fed up and I was royally pissed off. Thoroughly pissed off. So I refused to eat any low fat products to lose weight. Any. I also refused to use artificial sweeteners in anything other than the caffeine free Diet Cola that I was chugging. I made my life so much harder than it needed to be. Not using sweeteners and lower calorie versions of things was a huge mistake. I still lost 201 pounds over the course of 2.5 years, but I definitely would have done it faster if I did it the way I did it the second time around. So I'll do a quick set of cliff notes for anybody who might be new to the podcast. I lost 201 pounds and then I kept it off long enough to think that I was in the clear because I'd made it past that magical 5-year mark that seems to trip everybody up. I'd lost my weight the quote unquote right way. And I spent the entire time that I was doing it learning about food and learning about how to lose weight. So I felt pretty good about it. Then I made it through one pretty big trauma when Sean and I were in a fairly serious car accident right after I hit my goal weight. And it was the kind of serious where you're the car that gets rear-ended and your whole trunk ends up in the back seat. So your car gets written off, just like the massive SUV that hit us. We were in a sedan. It got written off. But the two cars in front of us, they also got written off because she was going so fast and made absolutely no effort to stop. So there was a big chain reaction. It was the kind of serious that involves years of physiotherapy and 3.5 years of spinal injections. So there was that. I kept the weight off through all of those things. But it all changed when we lost our third pregnancy in a row. And I decided I didn't care if I put the weight back on. My pain was so big. All I wanted to do was eat, and I didn't give a single shit. I'd lost the weight before, I would do it again. So I gained a whack of it back, at least 115 pounds of it back. Dealing with all of that set me up to deal with the big trauma that was coming. So after we lost 3, we had 3, and they all felt like a miracle. They still do. Our youngest was born 8 weeks early after an emergency airlift and a crash C-section. And as awful as that sounds, and it wasn't the worst. That was the necrotizing pancreatitis. It almost killed me a whole bunch. I'm not sure what my exact weight was when I went into the hospital, but I know I was back up to at least 242 pounds. And it was super bad. 5 months in the hospital, bad. There were 13 blood transfusions, more procedures than I can number or even remember. I had to relearn how to do things like walk and sit. I couldn't roll from side to side or raise my arms long enough to do things like brush my hair. Tubes and machines were doing everything for me. I couldn't eat or drink anything at all. And I was in oxygen 24 hours a day. So there was that. Did I lose weight in the hospital? Yes, I did. Was it as much as you'd think, given that I wasn't allowed to eat or drink anything for months and months on end? No, it definitely was not, especially not when I was on 3,000 plus calories of TPN through an IV every day. Did I gain back all the weight that I lost within 3 months of being home? I sure did. And if you'd asked me how much I cared at the time, my answer would have been 0. I gave no shits. I spent 5 months almost dying and I was still clawing my way back. When I came home from the hospital, I was still weaker and sicker than I had ever been at any point in my life, except for the 5 months that I just survived. I came home with drains in my abdomen, PICC lines in both arms. I hadn't sat upright for more than 15 minutes. And 6 days before I came back through my front door, I'd been in an ICU. So losing weight was not high up on my priority list. I got better slowly. It took almost a year to be strong enough for the surgery I needed. And it was another year after that before I had all of the weight off again. But it's been off for 6 years now. I'm back over the 5-year line and I don't have a choice. If I want to stay alive, I can't ever gain my weight back again. And honestly, that's kind of a relief. It feels like a safety net to me. I really like being alive. So it doesn't feel like a huge deal, like some massive thing to keep my weight in check. 5 months in the hospital was a big deal. Almost dying was a big deal. And since I'm doing this little recap for anybody who's new, it happened again. twice, not the exact same thing, but I was hospitalized in 2022 with a pancreatic pseudocyst. And then again in 2023 because my kidneys, I guess they felt left out and wanted to turn in the spotlight. 2 surgeries later, I feel like they've gotten the attention that they needed. So when I'm talking about the first time I lost the weight, it's the 201 pounds. And the second time was the 115-ish that I took off after I got sick. The first time I was stupid stubborn and had some very wrong ideas about what the right way to lose weight was. The second time I was lucky because the almost dying thing gave me the perspective to see things a little differently and let go of the ideas that were standing in my way. So I don't have a lot of food swaps or substitutions from the first time I lost weight, but I've got lots from the second time and now in maintenance mode. The only really big one from the first time around was the pop swap. I was drinking at least 1,500 calories worth of cola a day, every day. I have just over 1,700 calories a day now. So it was a lot of pop. Yeah, it was. But you have to keep in mind that I also had 3,500 calories a day to play with just to maintain my weight. So I could have made changes to what I was eating and kept the pop. But I decided I liked eating the way I eat more than I hate aspartame. So I made the switch and I just kept eating the foods I like the way that I like them, just less of them. The second time around was a whole other kettle of kittens. I didn't torture myself with a whole bunch of arbitrary food rules. I ate what I wanted, and that included low fat and diet products. So let's get specific. No. Oh, I'm struggling here because I hate handing out fish. It's just not helpful. So let's just talk criteria again for 1 minute. And this is it's such a relative thing. But I think Oreo cookies might help us out. Okay. So when I started losing weight the first time, it was in the middle of that whole low fat craze thing going on, right? And everybody was just popping up on the bandwagon. Part of what got me so riled up about it was Oreos. Really. They're great cookies. I have no issue with them. I love them. They're good cookies. And I don't even know if you can get the low fat version anymore. But when you could, I was looking at the packages in the grocery store and I completely lost my mind because the low fat ones that were supposed to help you lose weight, not that Oreo ever made that claim. They did not. They definitely did not. But we all know that low fat implies that something is a diet food, right? So the low fat Oreos had 5 calories less than the regular ones. 5. I had 3,500 calories a day. Saving those 5 calories was never going to be worth not getting to eat the regular ones and having to choke down the cardboard version. Never. I would rather have no cookies. Saving all 5 of those calories wasn't going to help me. It definitely didn't help anybody else. The low fat craze helped us to hit the highest highs we have ever seen with obesity. I've changed my mind though. I think mayonnaise. We're going to go back to mayonnaise. It's a better example for this. Switching from regular to low fat will save you 60% of the calories. It's a huge jump. But when you have 3,500 calories a day, the 60 calories you save per tablespoon aren't nearly as significant as they are when you have 1,700, like I do now. 60 calories for me today is a much bigger deal than 60 calories was when I weighed 330 pounds. So when you're looking at the swaps and substitutions that you're making, you need to keep in mind how relative calories can be. A lot for one person isn't a lot for somebody else. And a lot at one point in your journey might not be a lot at another point. The smaller you get, the more weight you lose, the fewer calories you have. This is another reason why small incremental changes are the way to go. The number of calories you have each day is going to go down incrementally too. Saving 60 calories isn't a huge deal when you've got 3,000 calories a day. It's a much bigger deal when you're down to 1,700. And just because something is marketed as diet food or it's low fat, that does not mean that it's lower in calories. No. More importantly, it has to be worth it. Now, the cookies are the perfect example of that. Why should you eat the shitty cardboard version of a cookie to save yourself 5 calories that you could very easily save somewhere else? You're better off having the regular version. It's way better for your mindset. And I see this all the time with frozen dinners. There's less than 100 calories difference between the diet version and the regular version of the same thing. Why bother? Depending on where you're at with your weight loss, it might not be worth it to save yourself 70 calories on an entire meal when you could come away feeling far more satisfied with the regular version and find those 70 calories somewhere else. Now, I know I am supposed to be being specific. I save myself a truckload of calories by using low-calorie Italian dressing instead of butter or oil when I marinate or saute meats and vegetables. I use 0% unsweetened Greek yogurt instead of sour cream with things like baked potatoes or dips. I use it all the time in my baking instead of butter or oil. I use hard tacos instead of soft ones or bread a lot. Sugar-free pudding and Jell-O with fruit floating in them. Those things are always in my fridge. I love individual servings of Greek yogurt for snacks. I use ground turkey instead of ground beef for just about everything. It's got a lot less calories because it has a much lower fat percentage. Now, how big the difference in calories is going to depend on how lean the ground beef you usually use is. But even if you're using extra lean ground beef, it's still going to be higher in calories than turkey. I incorporated turkey bacon into my diet. And I used the word incorporated for a reason, okay? I did not give up bacon. I have very strong feelings about bacon. And for a long time, I would not eat the turkey stuff just on principle because they're calling it bacon. It's not bacon. Once I accepted that it's not bacon and stopped trying to use it as a substitute for bacon, everything was just fine. It was an expectation management problem. I can't bite into a sandwich that I'm telling myself is a bacon sandwich, and then it's definitely not a bacon sandwich. So I appreciate turkey bacon for what it is, and I like it just fine, but it's definitely not bacon. The problem wasn't with the semi-bacon like turkey product. It was with my stupidity in trying to convince myself that it could give me what I got from bacon. It can't. Only bacon is bacon. I stopped eating food I don't like just because it's there and I feel bad if I don't eat it. Crusts are the handiest example that I've got for this one. I don't eat pizza crust unless it's really good pizza. I don't eat pie crust. I got the crust off my sandwiches before I make them, which makes me feel less wasteful because you're not, cutting off meat and lettuce and all the stuff that would be there. No, I just cut it off first. I started swapping out things I don't feel like a dish needs, but only when I actually like it. I really like using certain types of lettuce instead of bread or buns. I know it actually makes it a better experience for me. And I never in a million years thought that I would be the person who really likes a burger or a wrap with lettuce instead of the carbohydrate. But I am that person. I love the crunch of it. But I can't substitute cauliflower for carbs. It's like bacon. Cauliflower is its own thing. It's not a pizza crust or mashed potatoes or rice. It's cauliflower. And I love cauliflower as cauliflower, not when it's trying to masquerade as something else. I eat mostly the same foods I always have. I save calories where I can and where it doesn't affect how much I'm enjoying what I'm eating. I love food. My goal has never been to stop enjoying food, and I don't think yours should be either. It's okay to love food. You just have to be aware of what you're doing with it, and you've got to have a healthy relationship with it. That is a topic for a whole other episode. Actually, it's pretty much what I'm talking about all of the time. Anyway, next week, I'm back with the first of what's going to be, I think it's going to be a 3-parter on intermittent fasting. These are Ask Whatever episodes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the list of every question that has ever come in about intermittent fasting and how did I use it to lose my weight, all that stuff. For the first time, though, there are more questions on the list from Gladys than there are normal questions, and they're pretty savage, but I'm going to do my absolute best to get through them. I know the pressure is building this time of year, and I know how tough it can be. I know a lot of you are feeling like giving up, and some of you already have. And then you're feeling bad about yourself because we're only a couple of weeks into this new year and what's going on. It's okay. You're not on your own with this one. If you're looking for a boost, something to kind of kickstart things for you, I guess, you can grab a copy of my free guide to getting started for the last time. There's my weight loss workbook, Disruptor, over on Amazon. And if you're ready to take this on once and for all, there's the program. You can find the links for all of those things in the show notes and on my website, disruptingobesity.com. If you're looking for accountability and somewhere you can go to get the answers and the support that you need, there's my platform. I just built my own. It's somewhere we can go to get away from the noise and the ads on standard social media. So the link to my Flamingo forum is in the notes too. And I really do hope that I see you there. Keep trying, keep tracking, don't be intimidated, and don't give up. You've totally got this. Thank you for listening to Disrupting Obesity with Charlotte Skanes. If you know it's time to take back control, lose the weight, and keep it off, reach out to me privately with a direct message on Instagram that says ready, so you can start disrupting obesity.